Welcome back, everybody, coast to coast. This week in America, Why Did God Make Bubbles? And Excuse Me, Sir, But You're Sitting on My Mother is a fun double story book about children being, well, children. It's the creation of Janet Simonsen Brown, inspired by her own children and the brilliant, innocent questions they ask and sometimes not so funny things they do to get back at each other. Back to back, her two stories show both sides of childhood. Janet is a retired United States Postal Service rural carrier, married, mother of four, living in Cherokee, Iowa. Janet Simonsen Brown, author of Why Did God Make Bubbles? And Excuse Me, Sir, But You're Sitting on My Mother, our guest on This Week in America. Janet, welcome to the program. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, excited to have you here. I love both of the books. I love the titles of both of those books, and we'll get into those during the course of the interview. I touched on base that this was sort of came out of your own situation. You didn't have to do a lot of research for this book, did you? The ideas came to you with your own children.
Yeah, it came. I worked on Why Did God Make Bubbles when my kids were at that why age, and that and I don't know, my own quirky way of thinking about things. And we'd take the kids to like the zoo, and you'd see animals like the hippopotamus, and you think, what was God thinking? And well, all that just kind of coalesced into the book. And I've always been a glasses half full type of person, and counting your blessings has been one of my personal mantras. And I wanted to get both of those things into the book and have it be something that would make kids stop and say, wait, she's right. Look at all this neat stuff around me.
Yes, and you
the
do that.
The phones and appreciate what all the wonderful things God's given you in your life.
And you do that in a very entertaining way. Talk about getting that message across. You don't want to just say that because no kid's going to listen to that. But if you present it the way you've presented it, they're entertained with the story. And then they also get this gratitude part of the message.
Well, I tried to use things in nature that the kids would relate to,
Yes.
like bubbles or clouds, and things that they could do themselves after they've read the book. They could go out and lay down in the grass and look up and say, hey, this is pretty cool. I remember when I was a kid, I'd be trying to do all these things, and my mom would say, Janet, you can't do everything. And I'd say, why not? And I just wanted kids to realize that they can stop trying to do everything and just take a beat and relax and
Yes.
appreciate the world around you.
You know, and there's so many more distractions now than when we were growing up. It's sort of difficult to stop and do that, isn't that? We rush through the day. We're looking at our screens. We've got all these commitments we have to make. Sometimes it is nice just to sort of walk outside and look around a little bit. Gives you a whole different perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And unfortunately, parents don't have the time that they want to have to spend with their kids and just do simple things that would instill that appreciation of life in general in their kids. But that's what I wanted to get into the book, was to just appreciate all the miracles God's given you, because none of us do that enough anymore.
And you can really do that by sharing this book with your children. Two books, and we'll talk about that aspect of it. Why Did God Make Bubbles? And Excuse Me, Sir, But You're Sitting on My Mother, by Janet Brown, author of the book. The book's, of course, available at Amazon, wherever books are sold, and her website, janetbrownbooks.com. When you had this idea, it's one thing to have this great idea that you would like to do. Yes, got the website there, janetbrownbooks.com, and get all the information. You can order it there as well. And if you can't remember that, go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and link on directly to Janet's website. Once you had the idea for this, well, let's talk about how that happened. When all of a sudden you're thinking maybe this would make a cute book, then you had to write the cute book after you decided you were going to do that. What was that process like in getting from, I've got this great idea, to actually writing the book, getting the book illustrated, and having it published?
Well, I started the book when my kids were little. I was blessed enough to be a stay-at-home mom for several years, and I've always been a creative type of person. I have sewing and did leaded glass and pounded cross stitch, and just I always had some kind of project going. And writing books for kids, it was just one of my passions. And I think Why Did God Make Bubbles is just one that I kept going back to over the years and and working on. Once in a while I'd work on an illustration here or edit something there and then put it away and think, well, maybe someday, and then I had to retire from the Postal Service because I had three bulging discs and a stress fracture in my back. And um, you just wake up one day, and after all those years of hurrying off to work for
Oh,
40,
yes.
45 hours a week, all of a sudden there's nothing to do. And I cleaned my house, and I sewed a quilt for my daughter's college graduation, and I cleaned out my closet. And all through these projects, the books kept popping into my mind. And it finally dawned on me that maybe God was telling me now is the time. So I got them out and I dusted them off and did some research and sent them in, and that's how we started the process of getting it published. And stay
And
with the
yeah, the books
year.
are out there now entertaining children as well as their parents. The book and two stories, Why Did God Make Bubbles? And Excuse Me, Sir, But You Are Sitting on My Mother by Janet Simonsen Brown, her website, janetbrownbooks.com. Talk about the double book aspect because that's unique. And in reading reviews, parents really like that because you got two stories for the price of one. They get a real bargain in the deal, and they get two stories to sit and talk to their children about.
Yeah, that's kind of the way the publisher sold it to me, is that it was a two for one type deal, and it was one and a more economical way to get two books out there at once. I did have to sacrifice. I only got 12 illustrations, so there's only 6 illustrations in each book, which I didn't like. But um, the Excuse Me, Sir was I think the title just kind of popped into my head one day. Either that or someone said something that made me think, oh, it's a cute story for a book. And eventually I wrote a book around it using, again, my children's deeds and misdeeds now in middle school, and came up with that book that way. And they put them together and decided to sell them that way. They're for. I like the aspect that it's the one book is really for, could be for two different age groups, younger
Yes.
and then the middle school age. But then the second book is easily understood by the younger kids as well. But there was one aspect in my books I want to make sure I mentioned, is that in each story there's one item in each illustration that repeats on each page. Like, I'll give away bubbles because it's so obvious. And Why Did God Make Bubbles? It's a cross. There's a cross in each illustration that you have to find, and some are quite obvious and some are pretty well hidden. And in Excuse Me, Sir, But You're Sitting on My Mother, there are two things that reoccur in each illustration. And I'm not going to tell you what they are because you have to read the book. But that's something that is going to be is common in all the books that I ever have a chance to write. Is there's going to be one thing that the kids are going to know. There's, okay, what is it in this book that's in the next page, and what's in this book that's on that page. So hopefully that's a fun aspect of my books that the kids will like.
Well, it is, and you read the reviews, and the parents and grandparents talking about how often their kids go back through that to try to find that one recurring item that you've got there. One of the aspects of the books by Janet Simonsen Brown, Why Did God Make Bubbles? And Excuse Me, Sir, But You Were Sitting on My Mother. Let's talk about that book, and you're dealing there with good manners. And the one thing, and I know these are for kids, but as adults we read these. Suddenly, well, gratitude is something, like you said, we take so much of this for granted, go through life 100 miles an hour. It's nice to sort of tap the brakes from time to time and appreciate what we have because it's going by so quickly. And good manners, that's something, depending on the mood we're in. Either as adults,
Yeah.
we have them. Sometimes, some days we don't have them.
That elusive little white lie that we don't like to admit that we all use from time to time, and the mom gets caught up in her own preaching in this book at the end. So I don't want to spoil the ending, but we get to kind of laugh at ourselves through her experience there.
Well, yes, as we're reading that, it's like, okay, we can see what adults go through in this situation as well. And difficult sometimes to tell the child to have good manners when, as parents, we get caught up in things from time to
Yeah.
time and aren't necessarily as receptive to that message as possible. Are you working on new books now? Because you've got a great way of taking simple messages, gratitude, good manners, and make them entertaining and make them something that I think the kids will remember because of the way you tell the story. And
Oh,
are
well,
you working on things now?
yes, thank you. I've got two stories ready to go. Um, Marley's Amazing, what was it? Yeah.
I love the titles of the book, so I'm sure this is
Mar-
good.
Marley's Amazing Magical Adventure is one, and then the other is um, Curious the Colt or You Silly Colt, or that's up for grabs yet. But that one is actually the first story I ever wrote, but I rewrote it in um, poem form, so it rhymes. When you read through it, the words rhyme, kind of like a Dr. Seuss
Oh,
type of.
yes.
So I thought that might be a different twist. And again, there's that recurring thing in each illustration that was on the previous page, but you have to hunt for it. And so I'm real excited about both of those books. That's why I hope Why Did God Make Bubbles and Excuse Me Sir really take off, so I can get going on those too. And I've got other things that occur to me daily. I hear things people say, and I think, oh, that'd be a cute name for a book. That'd be a cute. Write them down so I don't forget them, and so there's lots of books in me, but it takes a lot of time and some coin involved to get them out there.
Well,
So
it does from the time aspect. It's one thing to have this idea, but well, let's talk about that. The challenge of getting the right number of words. You can't get too wordy. You have to use the right words that children can understand. What goes into doing that and going back and reworking? Okay, I like this page, but I got probably too many words on here, making it too complicated. I need to get to the point.
you have to be able to put yourself in that age, I
Yes.
guess. As in Why Did God Make Bubbles? You couldn't. The sentences had to be short and to the point, or the kid's gonna be, walking away. And the Excuse Me Sir, but you're sitting on my mother is for a little bit older child, maybe middle school age, so the sentences could be a little bit longer. The Marley's Amazing Adventure, I actually sent to a rough draft. I sent to my next oldest daughter, and she has three children, soon to be four, and I had her read through it and tell me what she saw, and she made some good edits and lots of cuts and stuff. I'm going, wow, I was really off base here, but she made some good points, and I went through and changed a lot thanks to her. So I get out input from my kids and from my husband, who I don't want to forget to thank my husband Doug. He's been so supportive. He's my tech guy. He's my artist guy who makes all these neat little signs
Oh,
for me.
yes.
I mean, hold these up so they know it's a radio show. Janet Brown Books is for the Facebook. It's three separate words, each capitalized, and then the website is janetbrownbooks.com, all one word, no caps. So thank you, dear, for all your help. This one,
And it's
yeah,
nice to have a couple extra editors that aren't on the payroll.
yeah.
You just have those that you could refer to from time to time to get some information. All the information on the book, as Janice just said, at janetbrownbooks.com. The book, Why Did God Make Bubbles? And Excuse Me, Sir, but You Are Sitting on My Mother. As I'm reading through the reviews, and they're all like amazing 5-star reviews, talking about what a great conversation starter this is with children to have conversations with their adults. I imagine that's maybe one of the best compliments you can have is this ends up being a conversation that children will have with their adults, with their adult parents.
Yeah, they'll talk about things that they've seen, or say, "Come on, let's go outside and look around. I want to find a butterfly like that's in that book," or "I want to blow some bubbles," or just draw on the sidewalk with chalk. It's just something one-on-one with the parent, and maybe even something new, that
Yes.
they have never done together.
On your website, you talk about in the illustration, the recurring object that you have there. And you say, I hope you enjoy my stories as much as I enjoy bringing them to you. What has this experience been like for you? How much fun is this?
Well, I've always dreamed of being an author, and having the book published was a real thrill. And I did a book signing here at the bookstore in town, and I read it in church and for the children's sermon, and I read it at Head Start, and they all just loved it, and at Head Start they popped up with, oh, I know where it is. I know where the cross is. It's so, and I'd say, well, don't tell everybody. 'Cause it's secret.
We'll let
So,
them find it for themselves. That
right.
a minute or so left in the program. It's going by way too quickly. What do you hope people get from reading, in this case, this particular book, in the two stories there? What do you hope when it's over with? What would make you satisfied as an author if you get this reaction out of the reader?
If well, with God, why did God make bubbles? Is just a reminder to appreciate God's gifts and His blessings, and to share them with your kids every day. And excuse me, sir, maybe siblings could be a little kinder to each other. I know I'm the youngest of six, and I've been the butt of every practical joke
Oh,
known to man.
yes, yes, I'm sure.
But that and just learn to laugh at yourself. I mean, the mother has to laugh at herself at the end of that book, and just enjoy each other, and enjoy life, I guess.
Well, it's so many great messages, two major messages in their gratitude for the blessings that we take for granted, and how difficult it is sometimes to have good manners, and the impact that has when we do and when we don't on other people. A minute or so left. What was the reaction of your children? I mean, this is sort of based on their interaction as they were growing up. Has their reaction been with the book?
Oh, they were just tickled. Just I guess they said, how proud of me they are, and how excited that I actually went through and did it. And of course, I couldn't have done it without my husband Doug's support and encouragement. And I just think it's hopefully a lesson to them that they can go after their dreams. You don't have to be 20 years old to go after your dreams. You can wait a while and go back and reach for something that you've always wanted, and that, well, they'll say, well, mom did this. I can do this, then I can go ahead and try this. If she can do that, then I can do this. So just trying to teach by example, maybe.
Well, yes, and it's what an example, because they're very successful with the book "Why Did God Make Bubbles?" and "Excuse me, sir, but you are sitting on my mother." The author is Janet Simonsen Brown. Her website is janetbrownbooks.com. You can go directly there, get information on the book, order the book as well, and you can go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and link on directly to Janet's website. Janet, this has been fun. I really enjoy the books. I'm not quite in the demographic, but I enjoyed the books nonetheless, and the messages that you have there. Thank you for being with us on the program. Please stay in touch, and you get the new books out. We'd love to talk about it. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed every minute.
With us on the program, Janet Brown, author of the book, Why Did God Make Bubbles? And Excuse Me, Sir, But You Were Sitting on My Mother. Both books available at our website, janetbrownbooks.com. You'll get there by linking onto our website as well, thisweekinamerica.us. And we're back after these messages.